Hello, and welcome to Retrospective Cinema, a podcast wherein we'll endeavor week after week to see the full filmographies of chosen directors. We'll interpret, critique, and discuss. I'm your co-host, Ryan Saylor.
And I am your other co-host, Annie Morell. And this week, we have the wacky pleasure of diving into Fellini's movie made for television, The Clowns. Here's a clip.
Oddio,
Ma che cos'è?
è il circo, se non stai buono ti faccio portar via da quei zingari.
That was once again from The Clowns, or E-Clowns, or I guess, how do you say clowns in Italian? E-Clone or E-Pagliacci. Yeah, this was by far the weirdest one for me to watch as of yet in Fellini's filmography. I don't know how you're feeling, but I just finished it right before recording.
Oh, okay.
So
There you go.
yeah, coming off fresh, feeling the clown energy.
Well, up front, we are a full spoiler podcast.
Sure, that matters.
that-
Not at all.
Well, I was just going to say, with that immediately out of the way, you just saw the funeral, so that...
I did just see the funeral, which
That's
I have
something.
to say, the best part of the movie. Like the last, I was not excited to watch the last, 20 to 30 minutes. I don't remember how much I had left, but I was wrong because that's the best part of the movie.
There you go.
By far, in my opinion. Like to me, I think my overall initial thoughts are that I wish that it was more of that last half hour or so and less of Fellini, a director's notebook, weird mockumentary self-insert.
Yeah. So what Annie's talking about, if you weren't here last week, between Juliet of the Spirits and Fellini Satyricon, he made a television special for NBC. It was part of a larger series, but it was a one-off within that called Fellini, a director's notebook, at least in the US, in which he took us through his life and his failed project and kind of moving forward. But it was very clearly not a true documentary. It was, I said it was at least docufiction, leaned into mockumentary. Anyway, now after Fellini Satyricon, Italian TV station RAI, which I'm sure stands for something, partnered with him. So he agreed to make a movie for them that would also play in theaters. So it came out, I think, Christmas Day on Italian television, and then Boxing Day, or the 26th, it went to theaters. And yes, so this is in the spirit of that previous thing. This is a docufiction in which Fellini goes around mostly France and traces the history of clowning.
Does he, though?
Obviously, we talked about throughout his filmography, Fellini's infatuation with clowns and clowning. And so on paper, this seemed like a pretty interesting and reasonable project for him to explore what seemed to be, at least to him, a dying art form at the time. I think reasonable in present day to say it has definitely fallen from what it once was. And to kind of document where he was at and document some of the famous clowns before they died. Effectively, though, what we get is a little stranger. It's interspersed. Well, actually, the opening really sets you up for something completely different. It's a scene of pure fiction recreating his childhood, where he sees like a circus tent rising in the distance, and he goes and he both loves the clowns, but he's scared by them, and that starts his interest, Fellini's interest.
Which I did love that.
Yeah, no, me too. But after that, it's often performances. It's a little silly in tone. It's kind of tonally got all these disparate parts. And anyway, I've introduced it enough. What was your experience with this film?
Yeah, like I said, I liked how the beginning is framed. I don't mind, he's inserted himself in enough of his past work. I like when he does that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as I also said, I liked the ending. Like, I liked the extended clown funeral, which we'll get to in greater detail, I'm sure, because it's the thing I'm most excited to talk about. And the whole middle, I was like, okay, yep. And I will say, the caveat here for me, I haven't confirmed how you watched this, but I had to auto-generate English subtitles from Italian subtitles. or like auto translate rather. And that was not super successful at different times.
Okay.
Luckily I know French, and as you said, a lot of it is in France, so they're speaking French a lot, as well as Italian, and then a tiny bit of English. So I think I had a hard time, and clowning is such a visual medium, right? But there was still a good amount of dialogue. So I think part of my lack of enjoyment probably came from just the fact that it's so hard to find this thing. It's so hard to find a good copy of it. Probably the most obscure feature film, I would say, so far.
Yeah, we thought that with Il Badone, but that was a walk in the park comparatively.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. Yeah, so with that caveat in mind, even with all of that, it was a lot clearer than Fellini, A Director's Notebook, which was a horrible, like, unrestored copy, as we talk about in that episode. And yet, I just found it so not... Like, it just felt very disjointed to me, I think, overall. And, like, if it's going to be a mockumentary, if it's going to be a docufiction, like, lean fully into that. If it's going to be a showcase of various real clowns, which it also is... lean fully into that. And I don't mind a self-insert, but I think I needed it to be a little more cohesive overall. I couldn't understand a lot of, not that I think plot is not the point here, as we've talked about with his last few films, but there were things happening, there were interviews happening, there were clowns being talked about and details of the art being talked about, and I wanted to understand it, and I wanted to be educated by it, because I am someone who does like clowning, and I've mentioned before I studied clowning a bit in college. Like, I am the audience for this. I guess maybe the other audience is people who also remember when clowns were more popular, like Fellini. And yet it was still hard for me to get into. So I think for me, it's almost like the best comparison I can make is when there's a really inaccessible Shakespeare film adaptation, and I think it's inaccessible, and I love Shakespeare, then who is this for? You know, if not me, who? Clearly not the general public. So I struggled with this one, I think, for a lot of it.
We did not talk at all beforehand, so I was very curious what you were going to say, because I actually thought the same thing regarding you. I was like, well, you know, if this film isn't working for Annie, then it probably just doesn't work, because, yeah, I mean, so much of it is these performances and is talking to these people that were clowns at the heyday, and yeah, I wasn't super into it for various reasons, and I'll get back to that in a second, but yeah, I was actively thinking, like, okay, well, I'm curious, like, will this one work for Annie? And yeah, if it didn't, that's not a good sign.
No, not a good sign.
But yeah, so my experience with the film, this is going somewhere. I got a library card today, which is very exciting.
Congrats.
Thanks. Yeah, I drive past this library every day after work, and I used to love going to the library as a kid, and I don't know, I just never have gotten back to it, and something about, you know, getting a new library card scared me a bit. I don't know. Anyway, I finally did it. I went in there and I was like, can I get a library card? And they said, yeah, just fill this out. And I was like, wow, it really is that easy. I don't know why it took me so long.
It's so funny that you say that, because I did the same thing for so long. And the only reason I went and got one, I also was nervous for no reason. Mm-hmm. The only reason I went and got one was because they locked me out of my Libby app. They were like, you have to get a physical card. And I was like, okay, I'll go. But that's funny. We had a similar experience.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, I had access to Canopy, which is a streaming service that connects to libraries in college, because I connected through my university. But I've been graduated for a little bit now. And so with getting the library card, I connected that. Then I was like, well, let me just search. And sure enough, The Clowns was actually on Canopy.
Are you joking?
I'm not.
Darn.
Not a good copy, for the record. It was definitely like a DVD era scan. But I could trust the subtitles. And I was putting one more stream on this film for Canopy. So I was like, all right, I'll do that. Anyway, so I think visually you probably had a better experience, at least, or more accurate to the film. But I think on the dialogue, I definitely did. Yeah, so there's that part. And then I wanted to anecdotally also say, so I start this film, I was unaware that it was a TV film. I don't know if this ever came up when you and I were planning the season, but I missed that.
Oh, I knew it.
Okay, there you go. I started this thing. The first scene's, very Fellini. And then right after that is just this very long scene in the circus from all these different angles. But it's like mostly like a one camera shoot and the lighting's not great. And I was like, this looks like a TV movie. What's going on? And then look it up, and sure enough, it is. So I think that really held me back. I've week after week been enamored by Fellini's production design and framing, and just the way it looks. I've talked about that constantly for the last several weeks, and that was really crippled here.
Costume budget through the roof, though.
Sure. Well, I mean,
so maybe it's just all the clowns bringing out their old costumes. But unclear to me, like, whether that's actually happening because it's docufiction. Like, I wish we knew.
Sure. And then the other thing that really held me back on this, I mean, we talked about way back with Variety Lights, and we still were not sure whether it was him or his co-director that caused this, but there were performance scenes in that movie that went on so long, and that held me back way back then. Well, those were shorter and fewer and farther between than what we have here. I mean, when you add everything up in this film, and yes, that includes the funeral, which I agree is very, very good, but adding all that up, it's gotta be like half the movie.
Oh yeah.
The film's only 90 minutes, and I mean, the last 25 is the funeral, 10 of the intro is a performance, and they're interspersed throughout. So it's got to be at least 45 minutes of this thing is these performances. And I just was not into it enough.
Yeah. Well, in that way, it's very much a documentary, because it does feel like him, like, I can't see any other motivation for that length of time being spent on showing those performances other than literally preserving them, which is cool, but maybe that shouldn't be this. Maybe that should be something else.
Like what?
Like a miniseries where we get 30-minute clown performances that he has captured, like has had various historic clowns recreate, or literally, like, what I want actually from this is I want the beginning, and then I want it to be like young baby Fellini kind of getting involved or enraptured in the clown performance, and it becomes its own world or something like that. Like something very much in his wheelhouse at this time, like dreamy and crazy feeling and otherworldly feeling. And then we end with the funeral, which is like had a narrative structure, which is why I enjoyed it more, and was very funny. Like there were a lot of bits of it that I laughed at out loud, but just the little tidbits we get, it feels very much like, oh, I want to capture this. Like, oh, I think this is so good, so I'm just going to put it all in this movie called The Clowns, which, props to him. It is a very accurate title.
There are clowns. I think I had almost the inverse experience. I mean, we agree on the ending, I guess, but throughout the film, the parts that kept me going were those interviews and some of those small moments in there that I actually thought were really appealing. There's this moment where someone's talking about this stunt that went horribly wrong and limbs flew off and blood rained over the audience, and someone behind the camera, I think it might even be the cameraman, is like, were we supposed to laugh at that? And I thought that was hilarious. I thought it was a great line.
And I will say, that might be because of my subtitling issue, like that I also didn't enjoy those scenes. I'm not saying I enjoyed all the clown bits. It was often, not the best translated, or I had to kind of read between the lines, or it was literally just in French, and I'm probably like an infant French speaker at this point.
There's a moment with an older man where they're like, they've hunted him down, and his caretaker is like, all right, tell them all about all those clowns you knew. And he's like, I don't remember. I thought that was great.
They're like, you talk about it all the time. Yeah, I did there are moments that I liked.
No.
But few and far between.
A couple more though. There's this push in on Charlie Chaplin's daughter that I think is pretty magical. And then there's this larger scene in the middle. They're trying to find footage of this legendary clown. They go to this restoration center or something, and this woman says oh, do you want to see 435A, and he's like, yes. And I just something about the clinical nature of how she was treating this versus like how artistic he was going for. I thought there was something beautiful there.
And then it was like 30 seconds of film. He was like, is that it?
Yeah, they did, I think, a bullet catch. It was some magic trick. It's a little hard to tell, which, I mean, was part of the film as well.
Did you catch at one point near the end, someone's like, you're Bellini? And he's like, Fellini. It's Fellini.
Yes.
Yeah, that was funny. There are moments of comedy outside of the clowning that I did like as well.
There's, I think it's right around there. They all sit down to watch some old film, and they're all very excited about it. And then, like, the film disintegrates.
Yep.
And he goes like, we gave up on the movie, and Annie showed us a scrapbook. There's a lot of very honest moments about how things go when you try to like get to the bottom of things, and so I really did like that element of the film.
I liked that moment because it's humorous, but it's also like, yep, literally a film of clowns just destroyed before their eyes.
Yeah,
kind of maybe saying like why the film is being made, and maybe even presented in the formats that it's presented in, for everyone to see, like to try to save. Like I can see him being like, I'm glad this is a TV movie because that means the audience can be even wider, and maybe I can get like kids into clowning. We could save this art.
I mean, I think the film very clearly does not believe he can save it. I think he's just,
Yeah, sure. It ends with a funeral. I mean,
yeah.
Can't get more direct than that.
For every one of those, I mean, there were these long segments of performance, and some of them went well, and some of them I just kind of stared at like, we're still going.
Yeah. My favorite of the clown bits was the alcoholic clown who goes to see two famous clowns and dies in the audience.
Yes.
Liked that one. Dark stuff. But yeah, a lot of it is like, yep, it's slapstick. It's clown on clown violence. There's a weird, and near the beginning, lady wrestling type sequence. Miss Matilda with Ride of the Valkyries played in the background. I liked that. Okay. I was like, maybe. And then there was weird Nazi stuff. The boys on the train that like came back and all heiled the station conductor, and I was like, oh no, they're heiling. And I was thinking, oh, are we going into like post-war critique now? What's happening? Like, and no, we didn't. That was just a thing that happened.
Yeah, I was thinking about that throughout the film, just here and there when it comes up. I think the idea, I mean, there's so many ideas in this, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just interviews, and sometimes it's scripted material, and sometimes it's a bit, and sometimes it's recording a performance, and sometimes it's fiction. And anyway, so yeah, in those segments, I think the idea was to kind of show that the fall of clowning coincides with like this rise of fascism, and then we get one scene after that where like it's relegated, like they're performing for a psych ward, and so I think it's just like some more death of art stuff that he's done in his previous films. But yeah, it's not developed enough.
I interpreted that differently because he talks about how, so a little bit before that there's a moment where someone says the world has forgotten how to laugh. Like, clowning is dying because the world has forgotten how to laugh, essentially. And then I thought it was like, oh, clowns bringing joy to these dark places like a military hospital, or just like soldiers abroad, mental hospital, as you said.
I think I was trying to connect those scenes, and yeah, maybe by your interpretation those would be disconnected, and that's fine. I mean, it would make sense for Fellini to be like, look, they can inspire people wherever, and we've lost this, so it still fits with the larger thing, maybe.
So let's talk about the clown funeral. We've skirted around it this whole time. This is the best part of the movie.
It's also like a third of the movie, honestly.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I think it could sustain, like, you could add a couple more things and it could sustain like a 90-minute movie, which is what this is. It's the funeral of Augusto Pagliazzo, a clown who has died. And it starts with all the clowns getting the news of his passing from a fellow clown. They all immediately go into mourning. It's, they're crying very animated fashions. They do a reading of the will, and there's a comical, it's clowning. There's a comically large, long will that they roll out, and he gives silly clown stuff to some of his friends. They have sort of a wake for the dead clown, and there's an old clown with a super long beard that says, like, "This is my legacy," kind of to the camera. And I, of course, with all the previous discussions that Fellini has had in his films about like what he is doing with art, I thought, is this what you want to be your legacy, Fellini? Because it's not. It's not this one. And then they kind of, the dead clown is taken away, and then it's immediately like they're all fine, and they start doing a bunch of random clown bits. At least to my view, one of the clown's nose is blowing up like a balloon and pops. There's a clown who's making soup out of himself in a barrel. There are clowns playing games with each other where they hit each other if they mess up, and it's all very joyous again. And I kind of thought, like, okay, well, there goes the good part, because I thought we were just doing more random stuff, because that's been the whole film at this point. But then no, then the funeral procession comes in, and it gets even better, in my opinion. This guy gives a sort of eulogy about the dead clown. He says so many funny things about this clown. He died at the age of 200. And the funeral procession features a bunch of men in horse costumes, like a bunch of men in black horse costumes. Incredible stuff. At one point, one of the horses breaks away and tries to sleep in a bed. And then the guy who is their master is like, "Hey, you need to get back to work." And he's like, I've been working 8 union hours.
Yeah.
So good. So funny. They talk about how he died by suffocating on a rotten egg in his nose. It's awesome. And then it kind of becomes literally 8.5 Light, the ending of 8.5 Light.
Yeah.
But with even more clowns, where they all start running around this circus ring, and more people join them, and it gets super chaotic, and Fellini is there kind of directing it all, just like Fellini was there. Like, it's so clear it's not supposed to be 8.5,
Right.
It's so clearly 8.5. There's a tuba cannon. They do a big giant champagne pop with a dead clown flying around. One thing I want to point out before we get to because that's not the final moment. I kind of thought it was going to be just like 8.5. And I'm wondering if you even saw this, or if you had a good enough copy to be able to see it. But the end, there are all these streamers, colorful streamers hanging from the ceiling of this circus. And, everybody's dancing with each other. They're like partner dancing, all the clowns. And it really reminded me, this is the third time where I've been like, visually, these scenes are the same. The other 2 films that it reminds me of are actually 2 that we've done on the podcast, funnily enough. It reminds me of, the really famous shot in Phantom Thread with like the balloons.
I thought about that one too, yeah.
Yay! Okay, great. And then similarly, and I didn't say this in our Die My Love episode, but in Die My Love, there's a point where I think it's like a flashback in the relationship, maybe, or maybe it's not. I truly don't remember. That film is a fever dream, but there is a similar shot, and they're all colored the same, and it's also balloons in that case, so it is different. But I do now wonder if this shot in the clowns somehow maybe inspired either of those directors, or if Lynn Ramsey was inspired by PTA. Who knows? I want to like screen grab each of those moments and put them side by side. I might do that, because I think it's gorgeous. I see why you would want to recreate a kind of wide shot like that.
One of my favorite moments in this is when Fellini shows up and he's talking to an interviewer. Fellini like literally is in the frame. Obviously we talk about Fellini directing the whole film, but he himself is in this film, if that wasn't clear.
Yes.
And so in the film he's talking to an interviewer, and the interviewer's like, "So what made you want to make this?" And he's like, "Yes, the thing that made me want to make this film was," and then the bucket falls on his head, cutting him off.
Incredible stuff.
And that really did help.
He is very funny.
My big complaint with the film, and it is still a complaint, and that moment didn't save it or anything, is that I think there isn't enough intentionality here on making all of the parts cohesive. But having him himself say like, here's what brings it all together, and then just getting cut off did help me with the film.
Yeah, it helped me too. Some self-awareness. I needed some self-awareness from Fellini.
So the very end, everyone is left except for one clown, I mean,
who was watching the whole time.
Yes.
Not a part of the performance. I think we truly don't remember any of the clowns that were interviewed. Sorry to those clowns. But I think it was probably one of the kind of retired clowns that he interviewed earlier on. And I think Fellini says off camera, what did you think? Like, did this cheer you up or something like that? And he says, I really liked it. And I kind of thought it was going to cut at this moment because he goes, I really liked it. And then Fellini says, you can turn it off now, meaning like the stage lights, because now the performance is done and everything kind of goes dark. And I kind of sort of wish it had ended like that. But I also, I do actually like how he ended it as well, because then this old clown goes into this anecdote about a bit that he did as a clown where his clown partner died, and the director was trying to tell him that, and he's going around saying frou 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 frou, which is a very good clown name. And then it turns into a couple of clowns playing a Nino Rota trumpet piece, very, very solemn, very sad. And the piece, I did look it up, is called The Silence.
Oh, cool.
And it's for 1 second, because there are a lot of borrowed themes in this, borrowed musical themes from his other work, which he has done throughout, but I noticed it the most in this one, I will say. I thought they were going to be playing the La Strada trumpet, trumpet bit, and I was about to be very upset. Yeah. Very upset. So I'm glad that didn't happen. But that also led me, just as a little side note, trivia, to discover that The Silence, what they play, like it's a Nino Rota piece, but it's not a piece that he wrote for this. It is a piece he wrote in like 1964, and it's an expansion of a trumpet part in like a Russian military song, which is pretty wild, in a Tchaikovsky piece. So yeah, and that's the end, and it is like that we had the clown funeral, but then these very solemn, two clowns playing these trumpets.
Yeah, they literally fade out of reality at the very end.
They literally fade out of reality, and it does feel like a true mourning of the art to me. The clown funeral felt like a celebration of the art, and then that last sequence felt like, yep, this is over now. Yeah. It's a dying art. We're dead. So yeah, so I think strong ending. Wish the rest had been like this.
Yeah, no, I am glad that it goes on as long as it does, because I think throughout the film could go either way, arguing. And I mean, you kind of get the vibe that it has the opinion it does, but it could go either way at the end to say like, now we're bringing in the next generation, or it's over, and the film does fully commit at the end to just it's over. And yeah, it's somber for sure.
Yeah, it made me sad. Like I felt affected by it. I mean, music often does that, but I think it's more than that. It was okay.
There were clowns.
You know what? I was promised clowns, and
that's all he told you to get. Them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, definitely a shorter episode this week, but I mean, that's pretty reasonable. Would you recommend the film?
No, no, I wouldn't. I think I said it pretty plainly near the start, but if I'm not even getting super into this, and I've got niche tastes that include clowning, then that is a red flag. Watch the last 30 minutes of it. That is something I genuinely recommend, and I think it works as a short film. You could make it into a short film very easily. I think if you want to watch a proper clown tribute, it's not the main event like it is here, but I think if you want to watch a proper clown tribute written and directed by Fellini that already exists and already existed before this. La Strada, my goodness.
Yeah, no, that's super fair.
So no, but he gets one where he just gets to make his little passion project. So I forgive him. What about you? Would you recommend the film?
For the first time with Fellini, no, which does pain me a little bit. I think it's just, whereas Variety Lights, I thought it didn't quite come together. And that was my lightest recommendation up to this point. The things that I liked about it outweighed some of the drawbacks, especially, some of the discussion about the lead character and the way he interacted with that group and everything, and showing like women's strength in that. And yeah, I mean, there was a lot going on there thematically. I think the parts that aren't just the long performances here just don't quite do enough to make me like the film. And the parts that are the performances are often so long that, I mean, yeah, at times I just couldn't find anything on this, but I did wonder, if this really was like a 70-minute film, that then the network said, it has to be exactly 90, that kind of thing. I have nothing on that. I have no idea, but there are some scenes that really, like, I was surprised at how long they went, especially with how good Fellini usually is at tone management and keeping things exactly the length they need to be. So no. Also, it's really hard to find, so...
I was describing my journey of trying to find this movie to a friend of mine, and they were like, why are you even discussing a film that almost no one can even watch? And I said, because that is the concept of the podcast.
Yeah, that's what we do.
And I will defend that. Yeah, I said it a lot more defensively in the moment than I did just now, but yeah, it's what we do, and I'm glad we did it. I'm glad that at the end of each, director season, I get to say I've seen everything that this person has ever done.
Yeah.
And have a full and complete opinion. I love even again for that one shot with the streamers that is potentially visually referenced in a couple of different films from the 21st century. Like, even for that, absolutely worth my time, worth our audience's time. I'm not going to recommend it, but worth mine for sure.
Yeah, and I think, I think this is a piece of him. Like if we are going to see the whole filmography and try to experience the artist to his fullest amount, seeing him document his journey to try to see all these clowns, like it is, something he did, and there is value in that. And I'm glad, there are these last interviews with a lot of these people from this film. Like, I think there's value in that as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it just does not come together in a way that makes me probably ever seek this out again. Unfortunately.
It's like James Cameron getting really hyped on his Avatar world, being like, I'm going to make like 7 of these.
I'm going to write them as books.
Fellini's like,
dear goodness.
Yeah. Fellini's like, I'm going to make a whole movie that's going to be all clown.
I'm going to call it The Clowns.
Awesome.
Everyone's going to be a clown. Yeah.
And everyone will love it.
Everyone will love it. Oh, no.
I did love on IMDb, the only trivia for this film is it has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes critics meter. And I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, not once we get factored in.
And
once they add us there.
Yeah, and Rotten Tomatoes forever not a great metric, because I tracked down Ebert's review of this, and he said in it, I'll paraphrase and kind of shorten, not have it in front of me this second, but he actually called Fellini his favorite director in that review, which I thought was interesting. And he's like, yeah, this is definitely a lesser work. It's like 3 out of 4 stars. It's like, all right, well,
that's probably why
review.
He was like, still love you, buddy. Still love you, but no, this kind of sucks comparatively.
Yeah, and yeah, he did end it by saying like, but the procession's beautiful. If you like Fellini, there is a procession. Yeah. I was like, fair.
He does cook up a good procession. We know this.
Well, if you agree or disagree with anything we've said here, if you're a huge fan of the clowns, and we got this one super wrong. Write to us, retrospectivecinema.podcast@gmail.com.
Who are you? My one of my professors, James Donlin, famous clown man.
So we're also on Instagram and TikTok at retro_sin, CIN. By the time you're listening to this, I think I've gotten up a video on Mother Mary.
Oh, shoot. Hopefully I'll also have one up about the Christophers, so it'll be a Michaela Cole double feature.
Yeah, TikTok, we try to talk about some newer films. Instagram's been, scheduled mostly, but follow us everywhere that you deem fit. We are also on Letterboxd. I'm at Ryan Loves Film.
And I am also there at Annie Morell. Next week, we depart this crazy clown world. Hopefully, I actually don't know. Maybe the next one is also clowns, but it is called Roma, not the Cuarón film, but Federico Fellini's film Roma, but not Fellini's Roma.
Wait, I think the original title was.
I think it is Fellini's Roma. I know. I just looked up the poster for it. Yeah, it's Fellini's Roma.
There you go.
He was getting ahead of it. Yeah, we'll see. No idea with this one. We're in uncharted territory. I have no idea what he could possibly be cooking up next. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Watch it with us.
Yeah, I have definitely not seen it. And when I first posted somewhere that we were doing Fellini, like someone in the comments was like, I'm gonna watch Roma. I was like, okay, bud. Like, what do you know? Anyway, so I'll finally.
Like, it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I have no idea. I'll finally find out next week.
Can't wait.
Well, whether you are clowning or going to Rome, happy watching.
Yay.